Hello everyone, it's Leo and it's theory time. In this video, we are going to talk about Batetemouda, my favorite villain from Healing with PreCure. He is amazing, he's everything, he's funny, he's strong, he's powerful, and he is very entertaining. So far, he's being my favorite, and I believe that he's going to be one of my favorite villains from the PreCure franchise because, he is just him. It's just him. He is awesome. I love him. And we're going to talk a lot about his personality and what he does and what makes him stand out and be very special among the villains from Healing Good. But the focus of this video is to talk about a theory that me and Inu been talking about, been going back and forth about it. So, first of all, let's check Twitter. Inu talked about this in a Twitter thread. And he said, noticing another thing today with Batetemouda. I went back and checked a few things. King Biogen hasn't been around in a long time now. Today, two things happened. Shindo Ine states this line, and shortly after, it cuts to where he normally is in the background. So we had Shindo Ine preparing herself, putting on some perfume, giving her this Britney style. And when we take a look at the background, King Biogen is not there. And the thing about King Biogen is that he, at least at the start of the season, he used to appear in the background of this black sky there where the villains stay. We don't exactly know where it is. And he used to talk to the villains. And when Batetemouda was born, he was the one that presented Batetemouda to the other three villains. So he talked a little bit about Batetemouda and how Batetemouda was now going to help them as well. So lately, Batetemouda, not Batetemouda, King Biogen is not there with the villains, with the other villains. We haven't seen him at all. And they have been mentioning it. So we've been wondering, where is King Biogen? What is he doing? What is happening? So let's get back to Twitter. Inu also stated this. Now to the better bit. If you notice our other villains, they have different eyes. Also notice Batetemouda, this is his first appearance. So we have the other villains, Daruizen, Guaiaru, and Shindoine. We can see that they have like this very distinctive design. And we also have Batetemouda. So if you compare Batetemouda's eyes to the other three, they are very different. Obviously, Guaiaru also has small eyes because usually this is a thing they do in anime. The older you are, the smaller your eyes are going to be. And compared to the other three, he is probably the oldest. He's probably the oldest villain, right? Where is it? Here. You can see that his eyes are smaller because he is the oldest. And Batetemouda is the youngest villain out of the three. He was just born. He was born during episodes 11, 12, I think. I'm not 10, 11 or 11, 12. I'm not really sure. I think 11, 12. Yes. And in episode 12, he attacked for the first time. So that was the time when he was born. He was just a regular animal. And we can see his eyes down here. His eyes are very small. His eyes are green with a very small dot of red in the middle. And then, now episode 18 shows up. Notice the eye color change. Something tells me he hasn't been around because he infected Batetemouda with himself or something along those lines. So in episode 18, we can see that Batetemouda's eyes are a little bigger and greener than they were before. And the red dot in the middle is also bigger. Right, so this isn't a big design change, but this can mean something. This can mean something. And King Biogen not being around, the last time he was around was when Batetemouda was born. He presented Batetemouda to the other three villains, and then he disappeared. We know basically nothing about King Biogen, and we haven't seen Teatinu around as well. So this also created another interesting theory on Twitter that King Byogen and Teatinu are meeting in secret, and King Byogen is actually Latte's father. I absolutely love this theory because it's so crazy, and I would love something like that to happen. But I don't think that this is going to be true because I don't really think that King Byogen now has an actual body. And we have to remember something. King Biogen is a virus, right? They are spreading viruses onto the world, right? They're trying to spoil the world so that it can be a good place for King Byogen to live. And if we think about viruses, this is what they do. They enter a host and they take over their body. They take over, uh, and they use the host as a host, actually, and then they just simply take over. So, that might be a hint to what's actually happening with Batetemouda. And another interesting thing to mention here is that usually in PreCure, we do have a trio of villains, which are the main villains of the season, and then we have a fourth villain who doesn't exactly work together with those three, which is going to be a little stronger and has a little different motive. We have this in a lot of seasons. We had this in Hard Catch with Dark PreCure. We had this in kinda with Sweet PreCure with Satan. We had this in Happiness Charge with PreCure Hunter. We had this in Smile with Joker. We kind of had this in Star Twinkle as well with Gauruga. And I mean, lots and lots of seasons did this, and it seems they're doing this as well in Healing Good, because those three that we see here on the screen right now are the main villains of the season. But we also have Batetemouda, but Batetemouda isn't really part of the trio. He is like an outsider. And we can see this even in merchandise. The merchandise that they have been releasing for the villains, which aren't many. We have very few merchandise on the villains. They are all focused on the three. Daruizen, Shindoine, and Guairu. So no Batetemouda here for us. But in Batetemouda's case, he appeared out of nowhere, and he kind of showed a new dynamic on Healing Good when he appeared, because we know that they've been spoiling the world. They've been trying to hurt nature so that it can create a place for King Byogen to live peacefully. Not peacefully for us, but peacefully for him. It's a good environment for him to thrive. The thing about this is that when the Cures defeat the monsters, when the Cures defeat the Byogens, the Mega Byogens, the nature comes back to normal. So they are healers. They are considered healers, right? The thing is, we don't really know what they are doing, like the villains. They spoil something and then it comes back to normal and then they just go back to where they are. So what are they actually trying to accomplish with this? We don't really know. But we know two repercussions that those attacks have. The first one is actually in the Healing Garden that we saw way earlier in the season. The Healing Garden is basically spoiled. Like almost all of it is spoiled. Only the place Teatinu is in is not spoiled, where the statue is, probably because of Teatinu's power and the statue's power. It held onto that, and that's why that place specifically isn't spoiled, but the rest of the Healing Garden is. And we know that the battle between the Cure that fought alongside Teatinu against King Byogen was way, way, way back then. It seems that it was like in the feudal era in Japan because of the houses that we saw in episode 14 and the scenery. So it's been a long time since it was like that. And what happened in that battle? Because they defeated King Byogen, but the place wasn't healed. So what happened? And we saw a glimpse of that in episode 11, because when the girls were fighting, there was one specific spot that stayed spoiled for a long period of time, and that was able to create a seed that infected an animal and turned into a new villain, which is Batetemouda. So every time a spoiled place becomes spoiled for a long time, there is going to be repercussions. And that is a good thing for King Byogen, right? So those are the two repercussions that those attacks have. And probably King Byogen's body isn't there anymore. He was just a shadow, just a blob of energy. And now with Batetemouda surging in the middle of nowhere, he saw this as an opportunity to take over his body. And now he's probably working with Batetemouda. He is taking over Batetemouda, and Batetemouda is probably going to show himself as King Byogen at some point when he is totally infected. That is my theory. That is what me and Inu have been talking about lately. And that's what we believe. And so, just to end this, I just want to say that I love Batetemouda because he is a lot of fun. He is able to go all out in his attacks. Every time he attacks, he brings something different. And one thing I love about him, he fights against the girls. The other three villains, they just attack. We haven't seen them actually fighting yet. I'm very curious to see that because I think it's going to be interesting. I love when PreCure villains, PreCure generals fight. But in Batetemouda's case, he doesn't care. He just goes into the fight. He just jumps into the fray. I just love this. He is very strong. He's powerful. And he loves fighting. You know, when the girls are fighting against him, he just has his fun. He just has his way. I just love him. Where is that picture? Here. I love this Kira Grace picture. You know, Batetemouda being reflected in her eyes. This is just peak Batetemouda's scene. I just love this so much. You know, I just love him. He's a very fun villain. He is definitely my favorite. I think he's going to be in the hall of favorite villains in Healing in PreCure because he is genius. Every time he appears, he brings the energy up by like 1,000, and I just love this. You know, I just have a lot of fun with Batetemouda. And this video was just a theory video. This was just for us to remember what happened and, you know, theorize based on what we have seen up until now. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you don't agree? Do you think Latte is King Biogen's daughter? I love this theory as well. We can just, you know, try to elaborate and create a video on that one if you think that's interesting enough. Anyways, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and until next time. Bye-bye.